Channeling, but I couldn't reconcile myself to the idea of extraterrestrials. One side of my brain was there, but the other side of my brain was, I've always believed in my heart. I've always believed there has to be more. It makes no friggin' sense to say that if you've got a galaxy and you have a sun and you have a planet that will support life, and you know that there are limitless amount of galaxies out there, which science knows, why would we think that there's no other beings, intelligent, sentient beings? How can we think that? I've always believed that, but I didn't have any knowings around it. And so then when the first layer came and they started at that, they gave to me in the last 24 hours, I got it, everything come together, and now I know what my next book is. It's now time to pick up where light language came in. Remember, I said that I thought that's what I was going to do for my second book. And they very deliberately, there would be times when stuff about the ETs would start to come in, and I would, they would just nudge me, yeah, we're going to kind of skip around that. I didn't put a lot about light language in my second book, and I didn't put hardly anything, only a few references, a few small references to my family outside of this earth. Once there's like a couple little things that you could read right past and it wouldn't even hit you if you weren't looking for it. And now I know, and the reason for me to do this is for my own and for us, for my tribe, my own chronological understanding of the layering of the knowings. Because it's now I'm getting it. I'm now finally getting it. And it's been quite a journey, really.
Getting this portion, there's going to be like more that's going to come blow your mind, I'm sure, I guess.
Oh, yes, no question. When we got done our last Monday that we were all together, I was a half a bubble off one. I felt very out of balance.
Did you?
And yeah, I did. Because my gosh, Graham, I spent the whole time channeling ETs. And there is not, how do I say this? There's not at this time, the way I see it, which is probably going to change, I'm sure, but at this time, the way I see it, there's not much that helps humanity with that knowing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when we talk about dealing with the ego and dealing with the inner child and dealing with, that's the stuff people need to know to live on this world, to live on this earth.
Until they actually show their faces, though, and everybody's shitting bricks. So it's also a good idea at the same time. I know what you're saying, but I mean, if they're going to show their faces, maybe we.
That's exactly what they said in that little 20-minute video. That's exactly what they said.
Oh.
They said, we need ambassadors. We need people that are talking about this.
Right.
Because you can go online and you can find all this hush shit about how the aliens are coming to overthrow us and turn us into slaves and all this bullshit. Well, that's just not true.
Corporation
we have our own, we have our free will, we have our discernment. We have, because, and yet now I know they have said, yes, are there beings out there that are not benevolent and can interact with us? Yes, they very clearly laid that out for me. How do we, so there's our question.
Okay.
So there's our question. Our question is, how does the average person moving forward with the interactions between the other planetary, the other dimensions, however they would want to call it, maybe we should find out what to call it. With those interactions, as they become more and more, how do we discern that these are the benevolent
Mm.
beings that have our highest good at heart. How
Mhm.
do we discern that? That's a great question. That's a perfect question, because it's so funny, because the human Kelly the last time we were together, that's exactly how I felt, Graham. It was like, Jesus, we're really going down that rabbit hole. We're really going down that rabbit hole. Why, why is that our focus? But it is exactly what you just said, Sylvia. It's exactly. And
Yeah.
they're asking us to do this work.
Right.
And so do I want to be completely done with the human facilitation and the human
No, but both aspects are good for
that's
different
right.
reasons. So that's right.
That's right. Exactly.
Yep. Okay.
So just for
Yeah.
fun,
Yep.
Hold on. I'm just clarifying. You're not,
do it.
sorry if you don't mind. So essentially the question is, how do we know that when we're interacting with ETs that they're positive or negative, or you know,
Highest good.
highest good, whatnot? Like, do you have a way you want me to say that
They
exactly?
use the word benevolent and not
Okay.
benevolent.
Okay, thank you.
I'm
Okay,
gonna-
great.
Hey Siri, define benevolent.
Benevolent means well-meaning and kindly.
Well-meaning and kindly.
Okay.
Okay, so that's exactly what we're talking about.
Right.
They are interacting with us for our highest good because they care, and that's exactly what I don't think that the entity gave us a name last time, but it was a very clear entity for sure. It was a very, very clear energy. But I mean, could that be why we have a planet that made the agreement for duality? So doesn't it make sense that there can be interaction on the negative side in the same way that there can be interaction on the light side? And what are we resonating at? Where is our resonance? Where is our vibration? If we are resonating love and light, that's all we're going to get. And we know that.
Mhm.
That is what we know. That is the truth that we know. If we are resonating with despair and fear and conspiracy theories, then yeah, you're going to manifest that too. But remember the truth that they gave me, that beautiful visual, that truth of every person has the ability to create their own timeline. And you're going to have a version of Kelly in it, and I'm going to have a version of you in it. And the version that I'm experiencing of you is going to be how I see you. Came out in my retreat. A woman asked, she said, I know we can't create and we can't do it for others. And I echoed that. You can't create for others. And then they came through and they said, the way we see people, the way we see the future is how we manifest.
Mhm.
So we have our version of them. In our video game, there is a Mike Bowker. Well, Mike Bowker created back illness and he went to heck in a handbasket. And then I learned the law of attraction. My husband's belief is if I worry hard enough about it, it will be okay.
Oh,
That's how he believes.
okay.
I've been able to make sense around the beautiful life that he's created by saying that his true belief is it's going to be okay because I've put in this time worrying.
Right.
But now I know it's because I see him as well. I see him strong. I see him being 90 years old, helping me into my kayak well, he'll be 92. Well, I'm turning 90 on my 90th birthday. I see this picture and I see it often, if not daily, at least multiple times a week. This scenario in my mind goes and I feel the joy of it. He and I walking across this lawn hand in hand, pulling a kayak behind us, and him helping me into the kayak, me paddling out to the middle of the lake, my beautiful, beautiful lake, and me putting my paddle down, putting my hands up and say, see, I knew I was going to create this. And I see that over and over and over again. And so he's doing very well. He had 2 back surgeries and he's doing very well. when my kids start into their crap, oh my God, if I'd known this when my babies were little, Sylvia,
Oh
you
man.
see them happy.
Yeah.
When they're headed down, you just play it in your mind like a video. You see them happy.
Mhm.
I see my kids happy. Now, in the meantime, are they tripping and falling and having stuff? Yeah, but everybody does.
Oh yeah.
Where you go to hell is when you think it's going to end in suicide. It's going to end in, catastrophe, and
Right.
maybe it's going to, but
Yeah.
you have that power to see them being okay. And I really believe that I think that it is what they have given me in the most powerful thing that's come through recently around this creation thing is it trips us up when we think, it short sheets us when we say to ourselves, well, we can't create for other people. So this woman was asking about her man having enough work. And I'm sure that it wasn't written in the question, but I mean, it means having enough to pay the bills and to be okay and have a secure life and all that stuff. And she said, but I know I can't create for him. And I'm not even sure, I haven't gotten that far to bring that question into a video yet. But I know that they gave me layers and layers after that, layers of downloads of knowing that, holy shit, yeah, you can. Yeah, you really can. You have to just, other people are going to create their timeline. You're going to create yours. And they're all going to be there. And it's going to be, you see them the way you want to see them. And it's all going to be okay. That's quite a big thing to swallow. That's a big concept.
Mhm.
But I'm not seeing anything that proves it wrong.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll
We'll
see.
see. Good.
When I'm 90, we'll see. Thought it was pretty interesting how it all played out.
Hey, Mom, what's your
I
thought?
had an interesting thing when my kids were young, like being able to trust them to God's care.
Mm.
And it was the hardest thing. And I just, I kept saying, I just can't hand them over, But one night, the kids were upstairs. We lived in a one of those little houses where the bedrooms were upstairs. And, there was no escape route. You had to come down. And I'd been sitting and I'd had some candles lit. And my husband was out and it got to be late. And I thought, okay, I'll blow the candles out, go to bed. And I thought, oh, I'll just leave one candle burning in the window so that when he comes home, he'll know I was thinking about him. And off I went to bed. Well, he came home, didn't see the candle. He went to bed. Well, in the middle of the night, I was trying to sort of get conscious. I'm thinking, something is really wrong. And I'm trying to wake up. And I just thought, oh, I'm sick to my stomach. Bathroom is downstairs. So I got up and went down the stairs. And as I walked past the living room down the hallway, I saw the candle and I thought, oh, when I come out, I have to remember to blow that out. Went to the bathroom, sick as a dog, came back and went to go to the living room. The candle was in a wooden candle holder on a wooden table in front of curtains. By the time I'd come out of the bathroom, the candlestick was in flame. And I just, there was just a corner of it that I was able to pick up and run it into the kitchen. And I thought, if it had just been the flame of the candle, I'd have blown it out, gone to bed, not thought anything of it. And I thought, if it had been any later, might have been too late. And I thought, okay, you know, like I got down and said, okay, I trust you. The perfect timing. So yeah, the
You know, and being a woman of faith, when I think of how you said that, trusting my children to God's care, and how many prayers I've said in my life, you know, please, Father, take care of my babies, make them be okay. And shifting into that place of faith of knowing God was watching them, that he was taking care of them. That is exactly what we're talking about.
that's what made me
Energy
think
of
that.
when you look and you just have a knowing, you just know they're going to be okay. And it helps the human, and it helps me when I think of the team of benevolent entities that now are part of my conscious team. And I think about it, and I evoke them, and I say, I will sit, and I know now the power of when I sit and I open up my consciousness and I picture. I did it for Graham that day. I've done it for Sylvia, you know, when you wasn't feeling well, you know, bring your higher self into my being, not stepping into like to do psychic, anything like that. Just bringing that energy and sending light language to it, sending blessings to it. So my son and his wife have been going through some stuff. I see the two of them. I reach to their heart. I reach to their soul. I blend them together. I use color to blend them together. I ask the angels to help me while I'm doing it. Help me to just blend these two hearts. They are meant to be together. They are meant to be together, and I know they are. And so I see joy. I see happy. I see them. I see movies in my head of them playing in the lake, and movies in my head of them at their games with their kids. You know, they go to ball games and all that crap, like you guys, I'm sure, do probably. But I just see it. I see it into being. And it's the same thing that we've been practicing for years with our faith. You trust them into the hands of the universe. Only we used to use the word God. I still use the word God. I'm very comfortable using the word God.
Just a
And
different story to mean the same thing.
it's just a different, that's right. It's just words. It's language. Language is limiting. Language is very limiting. And so, yeah. So, yeah, I am definitely, it's interesting. I loved how they said, it actually gave me great comfort listening to that, because when I'm bringing through this kind of information, I am incredibly altered. So I definitely hear it at the moment, but it's not like, you know, my mind's not fully present. My consciousness is out and their consciousness is in. And so I hear it and stuff. And so I ask questions sometimes. But when I listened back, I was like, holy cow. And it was comforting because they said, you know, we're not promising you're ever going to see us. We will know. And you think that one of the things they said was that I think that I'm ready, but they know I still have fear. And like you say, you know, we get, you know, like it's something that just popped in my head. Like if you see a really deformed person, someone who's had a accident or something, oh my God, it's so uncomfortable to even look at. Think about that. And that's a human who just has had a accident that has changed their face, and it's so difficult even to look at. And I mean, I'm being very honest saying that it is difficult sometimes until you can get used to it and whatnot. So imagine, like you say, if all of a sudden a being appeared in front of me that was part bird or part reptile or part whatever, you know, I mean, even the one that Joe Dispenza described, he was at one of his big events And the energy was amazing, and lots of healings were happening. Everything was going on. And he said, all of a sudden, he looked over and he said there was a being that was about 7 feet tall, kind of human shaped. I think had like more of an elongated head, he described it, hands that were long, arms much longer than what our arms would be proportionate wise. And that he just looked, and the being just looked at him, and then the being was gone. So, that's still pretty startling. It's still pretty startling. And I have, and they said this in that little bit too, I have put very clear boundaries around, I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be scared that if when I get up to go pee at night and I walk into my dark bathroom, I don't want to be afraid that I'm going to be startled by a being appearing, and if a being appears once, they're going to probably appear again. So I don't want to be living my life looking around corners, even if it's a positive thing. My husband startles me. I hate being startled.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't want to be. So I understand their caution, and I think I'm doing remarkably well bringing through the messages that they're wanting us to get. I'm getting more and more comfortable. I'm getting comfortable now sharing it with the world. So I do feel like I am going to be an ambassador to whatever degree that I'm able to handle it. And I understand that. That was what they said to me about writing my second book. They said, we're not going to put any of that stuff in this. This book can touch multitudes of people, but not if you put X, Y, and Z in it. It will put people off. And that book does. I mean, the whole thing about the chakra system and the angels, that is the gift of that book. I didn't realize it, but I do now. I absolutely do now. This is the biggest thing they have given me to date, was to have a conscious knowing around the chakra system, and to know you can use it, to understand that circuit of energy, and to utilize that circuit of energy. When I did my retreat, my virtual retreat last week, and I was doing the process with them that the angels did with me before the angels came through. Remember me saying I had that anxiety attack, and I started to cry and whatnot, and they took me through this process. When I had talked with Angel Ariel, I had talked specifically to her. I said, if I do this at the retreat, will you take us through that process? I said, because I read it a couple of times, but I felt unsure. And she said, of course. She said, just get out of the way. You don't have to plan this. Just get out of the way. So my plan was to basically say hi to everybody and then do that process. So I did like I always do with the breathing and connecting and the grounding, just kind of getting the energy going. And I was ready to start. And then they said, you're going to tone the chakras next. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. The guides want us to tone first, because in order for that process is a releasing process. It's a releasing and a gaining process. It brings in and it takes away. If you're not balanced, it's not going to be as efficient. It will work to a degree, but it will not be as efficient as it will be when your chakras are balanced. That's why they're able to come through the way they're coming through with me now. I'm beyond plugged into 220 now. It's beyond that. It's way beyond that. And the kinds of energy, the kinds of information that we're getting is so far out, and the way that it feels coming through is so much bigger and different than it was. And I believe that is 100% because of us toning the chakras.
Cool. Yeah, I knew a couple people when they said they would get this, like the awakening, the something, right, or the change, but they weren't ready to receive so much energy. So you almost like fry the brain, and it takes like maybe 2 or 3 years to actually start to come back from this. What the hell just happened?
Right.
I want to mention I have 2 questions though for us if we're going into ET stuff. One is,
well, wait I think if it's a question, let's get our process going, because I think you get a better answer when I don't know about it beforehand.
Okay.
Is it that kind of a question that you want the guides
Well,
to
I
answer?
only know that the one you can probably answer because you know what's
Okay.
coming through.
Okay.
When you're having something coming through, is it the ET's collective conscious, like how humans have, I believe we have a collective conscious. We have like a human over, uh, whatever, like the umbrella or whatever you call it. Like, I think we're all kind of like tuned in on the same frequency of human. So when you're talking to an ET, is it like a collective energy of that being's race coming through?
Or just an individual?
It's not an individual, is it?
I wouldn't think so. I think that's a good point.
You.
We can, let's ask that, because I really don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I got a sense or a sentence in the back of my head really quick when you said that says, like, an ambassador that represents the all.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense.
Sure.
So that's probably the answer, because I mean, that just, and it wasn't a sentence, it was one of those pixie dust things where it's like, oh, okay. And then the sentence that explains it.
Would that be the all of creation or the all of their beings?
Right, the all of their beings.
Got it.
Because there are different beings. Oh yeah, they're starting to come. There are different beings that have different objectives with humans, areas of expertise, and they come through with their areas of expertise. The entity that came through last time we were all together was the forerunner, meeting with lots of people like me to be the ambassador, to help the comfort level, to help the understanding develop, so that things like the orb and those kinds of things that we play with humanity with will not be frightening. Let's get going, you guys. They're wanting to talk, but I want to make sure we're good and grounded before we get started, because I think that as I will say that I am starting to, oh, there it is. It is starting to take a bit more out of me than it used to, because the energy is just so much. It's not bad, but it definitely is. I'm more tired. So I think it's important that I'm very clearly grounded and very clearly got my circuit rolling, because that's going to manage that energy. I think that's an important thing. So let's just get started. I'm going to just ask if we need to tone, or are we all right to not tone?